every day. So how do we obviate the need for that? We also have increase in fuel prices have a disproportionate effect on low-income residents. That's another problem. And you probably know that in your own communities. As fuel prices spiked in 2008, people who had problems paying rent, problems paying for food. Higher proportion of all budgets will go to fuel, no doubt. And then as we're now in this point where oil is relatively low, volatility sends mixed signals to us. These are things that we can deal with. We can demand higher efficiency cars. We can find other means of transportation. We can ride together. We can carpool together. And then about 20% of our workforce commutes from outside the county. They're particularly vulnerable. I think I'm probably running a bit late on time. I should probably wrap it up. But let me just say, let me just quickly touch on a few topics. Transportation, we're focusing very, very much on alternative transportation, expanding our bus system. We're putting in a new bus terminal with that is going to expand, we're hoping, twofold our bus ridership. Our housing, inefficient. We need to retrofit our housing for the future. We need, in terms of land use, we have to update our zoning. We've had what's called a use-based zoning, which means that we separate uses, commercial, residential, and so forth, and industrial. We need to put the commercial near the residential so people are close to the services they need. These are a couple of tools, GIS-based tools that we use. This one is our activity nodes, which is where the central areas of commercial activity are in the city. And then these are the population density overlays. These are just tools that you could use in your own community for determining, where people can find services and then connecting transportation routes for them, buses and so forth. So let me just conclude, because I'm running very late on time. We concluded in the report, and I think that more and more will come forward in the future to announce that peak oil production did occur about 2005 to 2008, and we reckon 2008. The economic crisis was triggered by the consequences of reaching peak, and a production decline will again meet demand, as I said, with another price spike, and an economic contraction will recur. We need to prepare for that. Oil production will act as the ceiling on economic activity, at least for now. So we need to really think about redesigning our economy and thinking about priorities, spending priorities of our federal government for the future that we need. I did want to mention that we have a transition town movement. Rob Hopkins, who I mentioned before, did the report with the students back in Kinsale, Ireland. These groups are now popping up around the country. And what these are neighborhood groups that are just kind of building in community and working on a community-based level to work on energy descent action plans. And you can see how many there are in Britain, and they're popping up all around the country. I understand there's one here quite nearby. And here's their logo, and here's a report. And I will agree with the chief economist and head of economic analysis division at the International Energy Agency when he said recently, we need to leave oil before it leaves us. And there is the Macondo field leaving us. So thank you. You've been very patient. Appreciate your attention. A few questions? I understand, even though I've been very wordy, that it's time for a few questions. So anyone have questions or comments? Yes, sir.
So earlier you said I felt like the peak of oil and the price increase that caused about 2 years ago, we're seeing like $4 on average in gasoline.
Yes.
That was a major cause of the recession?
Yes, and it was one major. Yeah, I think that was the prick to the bubble. I think the bubble was expanding, and it was bound to burst at some point. And I would recommend an economist by the name of Jeffrey Rubin, who's written extensively on this. He thinks that when fuel prices exceed 4% of GNP, that it essentially throws us into a recession, that we cannot really continue that kind of expenditure without some economic disruption. So I can't really expound more given the time, but that's what we maintain, and I invite you to read the report, which is, by the way, bloomington.in.gov/peak oil, if you want to download the report. Other questions? Yes?
Yeah, just a comment. You hear a lot about power failure, storms, and people without power.
Mm-hmm.
Why not have some kind of a government program to say, look, at least you could have emergency solar. You could have something.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, there's nothing set up. Nothing set up.
Yes, the gentleman talked about the fragility of the grid and the fact that it is one of those fragile systems in our society that's prone to failure. I think that it's very smart to go after a to employ a smart grid, which we've heard so much about. There's going to be needs for triage in case there's a grid failure, so we can keep vital services on, hospitals, public safety, and that sort of thing. But we could have, I would like to see public utilities based upon solar energy with distributed energy generation that would be a backup for our current system. And that's something that we've been discussing for our water treatment plant. If the grid goes down and we don't have any fuel for our backup generators, we have no water for our community. Well, how can that be? I mean, we need to think about that potential. Heaven forbid it happens. But let's find other ways to generate the power we need to pump the water. So, absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
Is a copy of your plan available on PDF on the internet?
It is. I only brought two copies, and you're welcome to look at them. They're rather expensive, and we had a limited issue. We're going to be issuing them more. So if you would like a hard copy, you can contact me. I'll have one mailed to you. But you can go online at bloomington.in.gov/peak oil, and you'll go to the Peak Oil website, and you can download the entire PDF there. Any other questions? Yeah.
Well, I just wondered, does Bloomington have a plan for dealing with, economic expansion? Or because you talked about how you have the increase in demand and then increase in supply, but you just figured that it's going to be demand destruction, and so all you have to worry about right now is scrambling to, fill these alternatively or just Bloomington actually consider development plan or change the paradigm of growth.
A plan's been offered by the Environmental Commission of the city to accept limits to economic growth. What that means is aggregate limits to the planet's economic growth. I should caution that Bloomington is an open system relative to the planet, so it could grow, and there will be winners and losers within that system. What I would like to see is what we saw in an earlier slide, ramping up the growth of wind-generated power and having a decline in fossil fuel power. Aggregately, I think we're going to have to recognize limits. But I think that there will be opportunities to grow local food economy. I'm trying to think of an economist term for it. It's substitution, essentially. Economic leakage is where money flows out of your community. If you show up at Walmart, it just flows out of the community. If you shop locally, you buy from a local farmer, you buy from a local co-op, it recirculates in the community and it builds wealth within your community. That's a way of building wealth, even as the economy aggregately has real problems, because it is on a carbon diet. It's on a fossil fuel diet suddenly. By the way, I mean, this in a way is a blessing in disguise. We need to get off oil. Now we're going to have to do it. The problem is if we start burning coal willy-nilly, right? So that's what we have to guard against. We have to say no to coal, yes, wind, other types of power. Have to demand it, talk to your representative, and don't let them get away with saying, no, I have to vote in this new coal burning plant. You saw the potential wind power, and by the way, I'm a big fan of rail. We used to lead the world in rail transport. We can do it again. It's not a new technology. And by the way, everybody loves trains, I found. If I'm speaking at the Rotary Club, everybody loves trains. If I'm speaking to this Unitarian church, everybody loves trains. So it's a bipartisan kind of thing that we can all work on. Thank you very much. Thank you, Bob.